There's a massive difference between being coerced into betraying yourself and being challenged to confront a pattern that has kept you safe but incredibly stuck. And sometimes that is going to be hard to hear. Sometimes the coaching that could change everything will also be the coaching that your current identity wants to reject the fastest.
Welcome to Did I Stutter with Jill Perick. And yeah, I probably did because I have a stuttering disability. But I'm also a multiple six-figure business and mindset coach who's here to help you shut down the mindfuckery of imposter syndrome, self-doubt, and playing the nice girl in your content so you and your brand can blow the fuck up and so you can stack the motherfucking cash. I'm holding absolutely nothing back. We're talking marketing, messaging, mindset, subconscious healing, nervous system regulation, and how to do it all even with raging anxiety, ADHD, and just being a fucking human. If fuck is one of your favorite words and nothing can get in between you, your iced coffee, or the work that you're here to do, I'm your girl. Let's dive in.
If you are somebody who did not grow up around a lot of money and you come from a family or friends or what the fuck ever, a small town like me, full of people who worked their jobs, came home, lived relatively normal lives, then building a multiple six, seven-figure business is not something that's going to feel natural to you. And it's not because you're actually incapable of doing it. It's because you've never seen it fucking modeled for you. You were not taught how somebody who creates that amount of money thinks, how they make decisions, how they move through uncertainty, or what they do when something doesn't immediately work. That shit is not naturally wired into your brain because it was never your normal, it was never your parents' normal, your grandparents' normal. And that is the experience for the majority of us. The majority of us did not grow up in families with a ton of wealth. We didn't grow up having healthy conversations about money, learning how to create more of it, or being taught positive things about people that had a lot of it. I would say I had a pretty average middle class upbringing. I'm also from a super small town, and we were actually considered the rich kids at school because my parents would take us out of school a couple of times of year to go on vacation, but we were not fucking rich. My parents both worked full-time jobs, and my dad had two jobs for a long time when I was a kid. They used a lot of debt so we could play sports, go on vacations, and have all the experiences that my parents wanted us to have. And even though I had a very good upbringing, I still absorbed a lot of the limiting beliefs from my family and the people around me about money, making money, wanting more, what it meant about somebody if they had a lot of it. Like I recall when my grandma was talking about her sister and her sister's husband, and her sister's husband, so my great uncle, he slipped in Walmart and there wasn't a sign that said the floor was slippery and he slipped, and they ended up suing and they got like I think like $1 million or something around those lines, and she would not shut the fuck up about it. She was so jealous, but she almost like looked down on them because they did that. Okay, so that's an example. So I've also had a few entrepreneurs in my family, but they were all very traditional entrepreneurs, so brick and mortar kind of shit, and they were all men. I have never seen a woman build an online business and make a lot of fucking money from it. I had never seen that modeled for me. What I had seen was that you work a 9 to 5, you have a family, you live a normal life, you're grateful for what you have, and you don't dare admit that maybe you want something bigger. So when I created this business and I entered the online space, I was trying to create a reality that nobody in my real life had ever shown me was possible. And then, like a lot of people, I started investing in coaching because somebody was saying, I can help you do this. I can show you what's required. I can help you become the person who can create this. But this is also where a lot of people invest in coaching and still don't get the fucking results that they came for. And this is what's going to change between you and whatever upbringing you've had, whatever limiting beliefs you have in your subconscious mind. This is the thing that's going to change it. And this has probably already happened for you, but this is going to blow your mind, okay? Most people enter a space that was designed to help them think differently, behave differently, and create differently. And then they continue doing the exact same shit they have always done. They continue thinking the same thoughts. They continue taking the same actions. They keep making decisions from the same identity that they were when they stepped into the room, except now they're inside of a room where those patterns are constantly being reflected back to them, and they have to decide what they're going to do about it. And you will usually go one of two ways. You will either drop your ego enough to say, okay, I can see the way that I've been operating has created a ceiling, and I'm willing to think and act differently, even if it feels uncomfortable or unfamiliar. Okay? Or you will hit up against that ceiling and start defending it. You will say, I know what's best for me. I'm just trusting myself. This doesn't feel aligned. This isn't how I work. I need to honor my capacity. I'm being intuitive. And sometimes that is completely fucking true. That's the hard part. Sometimes the advice isn't for you. Sometimes a coach doesn't understand you or your business or your capacity or the thing that you're trying to create. Coaches are not fucking infallible, and hiring one does not mean signing over ownership of your brain. But sometimes you're not being intuitive. Sometimes you're just fucking uncomfortable because you're doing something that is different. Sometimes your ego has realized that taking the coaching seriously would require you to relinquish an identity, a coping mechanism, or behavior that you're so comfortably rooted in that you don't even realize that it's a comfortable hell that you're in. And your ego is never going to introduce itself by saying, hi, I'm the reason you keep self-sabotaging the result you say you fucking want, right? Like, you are so smart. So your thoughts are going to sound smart. Your thoughts are going to sound logical. Your thoughts are going to sound self-aware and emotionally intelligent. It is going to use all the right language around alignment, capacity, autonomy, trusting yourself to convince you that continuing to operate in the exact same way is actually the most evolved decision you could make. And because you have free will, because you are autonomous, because you're a business owner, because maybe you have ADHD like me, and you're headstrong and you're used to doing things your own way, you can construct a very convincing argument for remaining exactly who you already are. But if you could create this result by continuing to think and operate in the way that you always have, you would have fucking done it already. You would have fucking done it already. If the way that you're currently operating and thinking, like you always have, was going to work, it would have fucking worked already. Now, this doesn't mean somebody else always knows better than you. It means you have to be willing to question whether the version of you responsible for your current results should also be the person who gets the final say on everything you do next. I worked with a client years ago who was about 6 months into our container, and she was trying to figure out why she wasn't getting the exact results that she wanted. Okay, we would talk about something on a call and I would give her like specific coaching strategy, all the things, and she would say okay, but then she would go and she would do it in the exact way that she's always done it. She would change the plan. She wouldn't use the feedback. She would launch the same way, sell the same way, create content in the same way, and then she would come back frustrated because it still wasn't working. But I could only take the coaching so far. I could tell her the things that I saw. I could coach her in the call. I could support her between calls. I could explain why I believed a different approach was necessary, but I couldn't follow her around her house and force her to fucking implement it. And I had to say eventually, like, I feel like you don't trust me. And that was hard for her to hear because we have a good relationship. She liked me, I liked her. I genuinely cared about her, as I do with every single client that I work with, and wanted her to succeed. But every time I gave her feedback, she would agree with me in the moment and then go and do something completely different. And again, I never want to be the coach who says, you need to listen to everything I say because I'm the coach and I know best, okay? That's not what this is fucking about. But it is about the fact that if you hired somebody for a specific reason and you believe that person understands you, cares about your success, and has expertise that can help you, why wouldn't you at least be willing to try their advice? Maybe you try it and realize it was exactly what you needed, or maybe you try it and realize this doesn't work for you at all. But either way, you have gathered new evidence. You've learned something new about yourself, your business, and how you work. And that is true discernment. Discernment says, I understand why this is being recommended. I'm willing to investigate it, test it, gather evidence, and then decide whether it works for me. But defensiveness says, I immediately don't want to do that. So now I'm going to find an intelligent sounding reason for why I shouldn't fucking have to. And those are not the same thing. And I think this is really difficult for headstrong women, which is the majority of us here as entrepreneurs, women with big fucking goals, women who are creative, intelligent, and very accustomed to trusting themselves. Because as a business owner, so much of what you have is your creativity, your perspective, your uniqueness, the thing that separates you from everybody else. So of course you don't want to feel like somebody is taking that away from you, but what happens when protecting the way that you've always done things is the exact thing sabotaging and derailing you? What happens then? What happens when you are so committed to proving that you know yourself best that you refuse to look at the pattern somebody else can clearly see while you're still standing inside of it? And I have done this too so many fucking times. Again, I have ADHD. I'm very headstrong. I repel. I like recoil at the thought of like authority. And I have been inside coaching containers wondering why I wasn't getting the result I wanted while conveniently ignoring the fact that my coach had suggested something. And the second she said it, I thought, I don't want to do that. I'm not going to do it. Right? Instead of admitting that I was scared or uncomfortable, I would convince myself that it simply wasn't the right move for me. Because sometimes rejecting the coaching or the support is easier than confronting what taking it would require from you. Sometimes we subconsciously tell ourselves that we're tired or burnt out or protecting our capacity because doing what we already know how to do requires less brain power. Repeating your patterns is efficient, and that's why you default to them. Your brain already knows how to doubt you. It already knows how to avoid selling. It already knows how to pull you back if you're having a slow sales week. It already knows how to change your offer halfway through the launch or create the same content that you've been creating for the past year. But doing something different requires more from you. But then you also have to be willing to ask yourself, why am I still in the same place I was 6 months ago? Why am I creating the same result I was creating a year ago? And you have to answer that question without immediately constructing a defense as to why. Because you can't hire someone to help you become a version of yourself you have never been, and then allow the version of you who created your current results to veto every unfamiliar fucking move. You say you want a different result, but every time achieving it requires unfamiliar behaviors. You consult the identity responsible for your current result and let her make the final decision. But at some point, you have to become willing to test a different way of operating instead of demanding that your old way finally produces a new result. This is what we actually mean when we talk about an identity shift. It is not a fluffy visualization where you fucking close your eyes, imagine the next level version of you, blah, 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 and then you go back to behaving exactly as you always have the rest of the day. It means that every day you get up and you become conscious of the thoughts, decisions, behaviors that belong to your current identity, and then you deliberately choose something different. If your default is to doubt yourself, tell yourself you're not good enough, pick yourself apart, spend the entire morning building a case for why none of this is going to work, you cannot expect to show up that afternoon and sell like a woman who deeply believes in what she's doing. Like, your actions cannot change unless you actually fucking change them. Your identity can't change if you keep allowing every thought that sounds like you to control what you do. And questioning that voice is not losing your autonomy. It's like it's utilizing your autonomy. There's a massive difference between a coach who doesn't understand you and a coach who understands exactly what you want, is genuinely in your corner, and is willing to tell you what accomplishing it is going to require. There's a massive difference between being coerced into betraying yourself and being challenged to confront a pattern that has kept you safe but incredibly stuck. And sometimes that is going to be hard to hear. Sometimes the coaching that could change everything will also be the coaching that your current identity wants to reject the fastest. And this is why relationships require trust, not blind obedience, not abandoning yourself, not believing that your coach is an unquestionable authority over your life. You need to be able to trust them. Enough trust to pause before automatically rejecting what makes you uncomfortable. Enough trust to consider that somebody outside of your patterns may be able to see something you can't see. And enough self-trust to try something different without believing that doing so means you have somehow lost yourself. I am not the coach for somebody who wants their current behavior validated until it magically produces a different life. I am the coach for the woman who wants someone in her corner who can see the pattern while she is still inside of it, and who is willing to get honest when the version of her says of who she says she wants to become comes into conflict with the version of her that she has been acting as. I am the coach for the woman who does really fucking well when she's called out, called up, challenged, and held to a standard that nobody else in her life has ever held her to, because you do not become unrecognizable by just collecting more information. You become unrecognizable when you stop allowing the woman responsible for your current ceiling to have a final say on everything that you fucking do next. That was good. That was so good. And if you generally do not want to recognize yourself a year from now because you have changed on such a deep fucking level that the thoughts, patterns, and behaviors that are running your life today no longer belong to you, you need to come and work with me. The Real Deal Mastermind and the Quantum Quarter were created for exactly this kind of fucking woman. For the woman who is finally ready to stop letting the version of her who created her current results make every decision about the life and business that she creates next. Send me a DM at your coach Jill, and let's fucking do this.